was saying he's gonna do a sermon on it. And you stand on the back and you sit somewhere new this morning. He sits somewhere. Yeah.
You know, I tell myself that all the time, and then I come in here and say the same spot.
Yeah.
It's so completely different. I want to hear somebody else sing.
Yeah. Yep.
I
We
understand.
were talking about that. I'm like, it's like almost like assigned seats, but we don't have assigned seats.
I do. And I say that to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it because ministers are communing. They say, now where should I not sit?
Yeah.
Anywhere you sit.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the grocery store and you say, I don't need a basket.
Right. He always says,
Should you need anything?
You know, that was great today. Whoever remembered that, it was so nice. Who did Jen do that? Did he leave that on?
We always turn it on. But do you need it?
Oh no, I'm okay. But Chad asked me if I was cold, and I said no. And then I noticed that his Adam's fan and my fan was the only ones on, and I thought, that's brilliant. Whoever did that.
It's good for you.
Good evening.
Maybe.
Take a songbook and turn to hymn number 111. 111. The first song. Any announcements that need to be made? Anything different from this morning? I've got on some special glasses tonight. Marcia told me that no one would notice, but I'm afraid that you might notice. I went off and left mine, and she happened to have a pair of black ones in her purse. She just didn't tell me they had flowers on the front.
They look like snakeskin from here. They're very
Okay,
nice.
okay. I'm okay with snakes.
They say anyway.
Well, that's the way with me, you know, when I turn them around, they don't look that bad, but I know, I just know. Let's sing hymn number 111. Come we that love the Lord, and let our joys be known. Join in a song with sweet accord. Join in a song with sweet accord. And thus around the throne, and thus around the throne. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Let those refuse to sing who never knew our God, but children of the heavenly King, but children of the heavenly King, may speak their joys abroad, may speak their joys abroad. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. The hill of Zion are thousand sacred sweets. Before we reach the heavenly fields, before we reach the heavenly fields, so walk the golden streets, or walk the golden streets. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. 745. Living below in this so sinful world, hardly a comfort can afford. Striving alone to face temptation sore, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to save me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord? Neighbors are kind, I love them every one. We get along in sweet accord. But when my soul needs manna from above, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to save me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord? Here is grand, with friends I love so dear. Comfort I get from God's own word. Yet when I face the chilling hand of death, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to save me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord? Caught myself thinking about the next song and didn't realize I hadn't sang the third verse yet. So. Multitasking, I tell you. Turn to hymn number 351. Some of us shouldn't be multitasking at all. 351. At this time we'll be leading our opening prayer. If you will, let's be standing for the prayer and remain standing for the song, please.
Would you bow with me, please? Almighty God, our Father, it's truly been a great day that you've allowed us to have today. We can gather with our brothers and sisters and taking the Lord's Supper and communion that you have set up for us, and taking your word and singing these beautiful songs to your name. You blessed us with all the physical blessings we need, with our food, our clothes, and shelter. We thank you for that. You blessed us, Father, with your Spirit. You sent it down to guide us and guard us and show us the way. And we thank you for that. We thank you for Jesus, who died, paid the price that we may walk those golden streets one day. Father, we ask that you open our minds. We ask that you help us to see what you have for us in your word. Help us to understand and to apply it. And help us, Father, to love. We many times find that we fall short, especially in the love that you have given to us. We forget that you're our Father and that whatever blessings we need, you will provide. And we thank you for them. Father, we ask that you look down on us, forgive us of our sins. As we walk on this earth, we feel the pains, the agonies, and sometimes we forget about the hope that you have given us. Help us to concentrate on that hope. Increase our faith through the study of your word and the fellowship of brothers and sisters. And we ask you to go with us through the rest of the service. Right in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Troublesome times are here,
Filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear. Now is a stay. Humbling your heart to God, saves from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteous meet in the skies, going where no one dies, heavenward bound. Troubles will soon be o'er, happy forevermore, when we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the sky, telling this world goodbye, homeward we then will fly, glory to share. Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom, trumpets will sound. All of the dead shall rise, righteous meet in the skies, going where no one dies, heavenward bound.
Let's be seated, please. Hymn after the lesson be hymn number 517. 517.
All right, good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to start a little bit of a series that kind of tacks on to our question and answer focus. And so ultimately this series is incomplete, and I have no idea how long we'll go. Going to start a Sunday night series, and who knows, depending on if I don't get any questions, sometimes I'll take a step away from it and come back to it. But I would like anyone to write down in these cards, or text me, or call me, or email me with something in the subject of, what does that word mean? There was something that Gabby and I saw on Facebook from one of my good friends that was asking this question. He was like, hey, what are some words in the Bible and that the church uses frequently that a lot of times we may be like, well, what does that mean? And maybe you know what it means, but you know that a lot of people don't know what it means. And so, what I would like from, hey, if it's each and every one of you, great. This will be a great, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-week study on what does that word mean? And I really think it's important that when we study these things, because we might ask the question, I forget if the slide is on there, no it's not, but what is in a word? what is truly in a word? Let's talk about the number of English words that we have in our vocabulary. Now, this is according to the Oxford Dictionary, but according to the Oxford Dictionary, there are approximately 171,476 words in current use. I guess I was struggling to figure out what they meant by this, but they're like, if we're going to keep each word to its bare minimum, no branch offs, no slangs, absolutely nothing, it's this number, 171,476. But then the Oxford Dictionary continued on. They're like, it's not just that, and we need to understand that this statistic is ever growing. There are actually 250,000 distinct words, including inflections and words from technical and regional vocabulary. So now we start to break it down a little bit more. It's like, okay, yeah, there's, give or take, 171,000 just bare bone words, but now you push it further, 250,000 distinct words. But you push it even further, and they say, now this is an approximate, but they're like, if we go down to everything, words in the most literal way. Now, this would include slang, this would probably also include abbreviations, all sorts of different things. There are, and this is really what they want us to focus on, in the English language, there are approximately 750,000 words. Now, that's in the most literal way. Anything that you might want to define as a word, they'll give you that. And, I mean, we might as well take that because that's the English language. Yes, there's the actual words you write down, and a professor in a college would say, that's not a word, so I'm going to mark you off. But with actual vocabulary and people just talking to you on the streets, it goes so far as 750,000 words. Now let's break it down a little bit more. Now the slides aren't going to be up there for this one, but there was another study then that asked, how many words does each individual person usually know? And now we need to understand that when this study was done, they're not even saying understanding. That they understand the meaning of this word. They're merely saying, how many English words does the average person who has gone through college in America know? Or at least that they have become familiar with it. How they did this test, I don't know. But there are certain groups that would say it's anywhere from 25 to 30,000 words. There's 750,000 different words. Now, one of the most liberal studies would say, no, more than likely, an individual has come in contact with and could recognize, though they may not know the meaning of it, could recognize by the age of 22 in going through college, they could recognize approximately 42,000 individual words. But when it comes down to it, that is only, give or take, 5.6% of all of the English words that English has to offer. So, looking at all that statistics, why would we bring this up in a Bible study? Well, let's start looking at how many individual words are in the Bible. Let's start with the Hebrew. In the Hebrew language, individual words that make up the Old Testament, this isn't including Aramaic, I do apologize. I've tried to figure that statistic out. I couldn't quite figure that out because there's very few. But individual Hebrew words, there are 8,674 individual Hebrew words in the Bible. Now, if we look at Greek, there are 5,624 different Greek words in the Bible. So we've got all these varying words. Now this is significantly less than our 750,000, right? Significantly less. But let's just stick with English. English words, once it's translated into English, both the Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, how many individual English words can we find in the average Bible? This one specifically brought from the KJV. 12,143 different English words in the King James Bible version. So, you have 12,143 words. The average person knows, give or take, by the time they're 20, 42,000 English words. Now, let's look at a passage. Before we actually break down one of these words, I'm bringing this whole introduction to kind of help us understand maybe why this is important. Let's bring up a passage. This passage is 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 14. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 14. This passage reads this: "Remind them of these things and solemnly charge them in the presence of God not to wrangle about words, which is useless and leads to the ruin of the hearers." Okay? So, according to the Bible, if we just stayed in this one verse, if we just looked at it as is, we'd be like, okay, don't be focusing, don't be trying to figure out, like, focusing so much on what these individual words mean. Just kind of read the Bible. And that is what a lot of society will say. They will go to this verse along with many others to almost insinuate that the Bible speaks to different people individually. So they don't wrangle about, or some other translations would say, don't fight about words. Okay. But what if we look at this in context? Verses 14 through 16. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. "Remind them of these things and solemnly charge them in the presence of God not to wrangle about words, which is useless and leads to the ruin of the hearers. Be diligent to present yourself approved to God as a workman who does not need to be ashamed, accurately handling the word of truth. But avoid worldly and empty chatter, for it will lead to further ungodliness." If we keep to this, if we understand what Paul is trying to say to Timothy, what's the other verses talking about? He's saying, make sure you handle the word of God accurately. Words of men, don't fight about those. That just leads to further ungodliness if I'm fighting about words of men. So, basic thing that we need to note. In the English language, there are approximately 12,143 different English words that we can learn and study from in the Bible. But if I'm fighting over the additional 737,857 words, then what I'm doing is I'm wrangling about words that are useless. We need to handle accurately the words God has given us. So these are the words that we should make sure we understand. And if I just lightly roll over a word, and the word that we're going to be looking at tonight is sanctification. If I just lightly roll over it, and I'm like, I don't really know what it means, but I'm just going to keep going, I'm not accurately handling the Word of God. But then I go over here, and maybe I'm focusing a little bit more on all of these different, say, political words, and like, okay, what does that really mean? I'm focusing more on the words of men than I am on the words that God has put before us. So tonight, what we're going to do, and we're going to start, is a series. to help us understand what that word means. We're going to be looking at sanctification this evening. Like I said, please go ahead and shoot me a text, give me a call, email me, write in these notes in the boxes in the back for different words that maybe we could focus on. But tonight we're going to look at sanctification. Let's look at the definition. What is the proper definition of the word sanctification? It is the action of making or declaring something holy. The action of making or declaring something holy. Now, we're going to go into more depth in a second, but what we need to understand when walking into this is sanctification is not synonymous. I've said this similar phrase this morning about something else, but sanctification is not synonymous with holy. Now, sanctification leads to holiness, but they are two different things. So, today, if we're going to ask what is sanctification, let's first ask the question, what is holy? If we look at the word holy, what is it? And now, one of the first things, and this is not wrong at all. And in fact, I would almost always, up until really this week and really studying in depth, I would always go, if someone asked me, what's the definition of holy? I'd say, set aside. I would say that. And that is not wrong. But if we study how the word holy is used and then developed from the Old Testament into the New Testament, we need to understand that set aside is an oversimplification of the word. It's oversimplified. It's not just set aside. Let's go ahead and discuss what are some different definitions, okay? Well, if you look at the English definition, if you were to type in Oxford Dictionary, what is holy? Dedicated or consecrated to God or a religious purpose, sacred. Okay, so you are dedicated to God or a religious purpose. So that is the focus. I am dedicated to God. If you look at a Greek dictionary, I'll go ahead and flip over you because even though some people are taking notes, it's going to look almost identical. Greek definition, being dedicated or consecrated to the service of God. That is, when we look at the New Testament, when the word holy is discussed in the New Testament, it's that we're dedicated to God. We're dedicated and consecrated towards His service. It is a focus on God. But then, we look at the Hebrew. This is the Old Testament. The Hebrew definition is of God as separate, apart, and sacred. So it is of God. But there is a focus now of being set apart, separated from other things of God. Now let's talk about that for a second. Let's look at two different passages in the Bible to properly get an idea of this. What's the difference here? Well, let's look at Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26. Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 26 says this, "Thus you are to be holy to me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine." So what is he saying here? In Leviticus, the focus is, I've set you apart from the rest of the world to look to me. He's describing it. The first half is introducing us to the word holy. Thus you are to be holy for me, for I, the Lord, am holy. And then the second half is an exact description of what the word holy means. And I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine. So, if I were to say, what does the word holy mean? Well, set apart. I've got it right from the Old Testament. The Old Testament is I'm set apart from the world. Because think about the mindset of God with his people in the Old Testament. The mindset of God is be different. And he's trying to give them this mindset. Be different than the rest of the world. The rest of the world focuses on these gods. Focus on me. Be different. You look at the world, but now be different. Don't even intermarry with the world, because I want you to be different. There's such a focus on separating ourselves or separating the Jews from the rest of the world so that they can be dedicated strictly to God. So the focus is be dedicated to God. How? By separating yourself. That is the focus. But then we look at 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15 through 16. And there's a slightly different feel to it. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 15 through 16. But like the Holy One who called you, be holy yourselves also in all your behavior. Because it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. What's left out here? The set aside part. What is different about Christianity to Judaism? Judaism is don't be like the flesh. Don't be like the rest of the world. Throwing it aside, throwing it aside, throwing it aside. And Christianity is Jesus understanding that we are flesh, but be like him. Focus ourselves to be like him. So what is the difference? If we look at the word holy in the Old Testament, it's a discussion of our relationship and our distance from the world. Make sure we're set aside from the world so that we can be dedicated to God. It's a focus on that relationship. But by the time the New Testament comes in, remember, these are, though they are similar, one's Hebrew and one's Greek, they are slightly varying languages. Once the New Testament comes in, it's no longer about our relationship to the world, and it is strictly about our relationship to God. Our dedication to God. Because if I can be dedicated and focused on God, I don't even have to worry about my relationship with the world and how close I am. Just simply focus on my dedication to God. Be dedicated. Look to God. Be close to him. Follow God. Don't follow the world. Don't follow the world is so much of a Old Testament focus, and that is still somewhat of a focus in the New Testament. But the New Testament is simply follow the Lord. If I can follow the Lord, then I know I'm going to be different than the rest of the world. I know that. So if we understand holy, now we want to go in and say, what is sanctification? Because remember the definition. Let's go back to the definition of sanctification. The action of making or declaring something holy. Come on. I messed up. Sorry, guys. All right. There we go. What is sanctification? Saying sanctification and holy are the same thing is like saying cooking and eating are the same thing. They're not. They're not. One is the process that gets the food on the plate into our mouth. The other is the process of getting the food off of the plate into our mouth. It's very similar, and they both lead to the same thing. But sanctification is the cooking process, and holy is the actual eating process. That's kind of the best way to, for me at least, to look at it. They end in the same result. But sanctification is the process in which to get there. Let's look at two sanctification definitions. The English definition is the act of making or declaring something holy, like I mentioned. The Greek definition is the use in a moral sense for a process, or more often its result, the state of being holy. If we can surmise that in an easy to understand way, the action of making or declaring something holy. It is the action to bring ourselves, the process to bring ourselves to be holy. Romans chapter 6, verses 19 through 21 says this: I'm speaking in human terms because of the weakness of your flesh. For just as you presented your members as slaves to impurity and to lawlessness, resulting in further lawlessness, so now present your members as slaves to righteousness, resulting in sanctification. For when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. Therefore, what benefit were you then deriving from the things which you are now ashamed? For the outcome of those things is death. Let's talk about this for a second. There's a lot going on here. But he's talking about who we were in the flesh. It's kind of a great description of the difference between trying to follow an old law and trying to follow the new law. People in the flesh live in sin. And if I tried to follow the old law, I wouldn't be able to complete it at all. Because I would sin. I have sinned many times, and so therefore I failed the old law. I just did that. Resulting in further lawlessness, so now present your members as slaves to righteousness, resulting in sanctification. We need to be slaves to righteousness, change our life to being righteous, and it says that this is resulting in sanctification. Verse 22 then says this: But now having been freed from sin and enslaved to God, you derive your benefit, resulting in sanctification, and the outcome, eternal life. What is sanctification? What is it? It's the action that makes us holy. Remember when we discussed how holy now in the New Testament is more focused on how close we are to God and our dedication to God and our relationship to God? Well, because